These are 100 levels of extreme base building, ranging from being homeless in Florida to the secret way to make your base stand out from everyone else's using one simple technique. But first, we need to start from level 1. The most common mistake new players make is overusing the campfire. Campfires are easy for cooking and traveling and are probably the first type of base anyone makes. However, if you build one every night, the materials will soon add up and you might as well be throwing money out the window. In reality, only use campfires when cooking things on the go or to warm yourself up during winter when there's nothing nearby to burn. This is the worst of the worst, but don't worry because we have something way better. Fire pits are very easy to craft and will become a permanent stove and light source, only needing fuel to reignite, which if you're playing as Willow will be almost nothing. But since we want to show off our amazing building skills to all the random players that join our world, it's better to put some more research into this. The science machine will take some gold boulders and trees to unlock multiple recipes and advances in the game to make some tools that even mega basers will be envious. I mean, look at this shovel, it's so pointy, I just want to stick it in my... Don't get too carried away crafting too many items though, because if we're not careful, our base might end up looking like this. Thankfully, we're not filthy Maxwell mains, so we should be able to keep this fairly organized using these next few tips. Now, all the chest lovers will probably scold you for having all of these items on the ground like this, but this might be better than you think. At this point, we're still far from that amazing base with top tier organization, so for now, keeping things we will be using for crafting near the science machine is a great way to avoid unnecessary walking, but also keep flammable materials far away from fires to avoid, you know, what happened to Greg. Anyways, another great tip for this is to keep all our tools in their own separate part of the base to avoid ending up with 6 pickaxes with 13% durability, because I thought I needed to save another one for a thermostat. Depending on our base location, things like rocks or gears might be good to place in a chest or two, but before that, we need to make an upgrade. Level 9. Crockpots will take a big part of the base and are probably one of the most important, so listen up. Crockpots will take charcoal from burning trees, cut stone from refining stone in the science machine, and also lots and lots of sticks. There's several different designs for crockpots from 1 to 6 crockpots, but here's an extra tip to see how many crockpots are right for you. Depending on what type of food you plan on making and how many players are in the server, many times you would just want to go straight for 6 crockpots to increase your output speed. But for solo, unless you're cooking really long meals like Honeyham, your food will more than likely be done before you get to the last crockpot, meaning you're really just doing unnecessary walking and wasting a lot of starting resources on more crockpots. Personally, 4 crockpots fitted into one tile or 5 in a bit larger area have always worked great for me. But if you actually have friends or are a worldly main, take all the space you need. As a matter of fact, take the whole map if you want. Please, just give me some of those delicious crepes. I need them. No, I'm not addicted, I swear. Level 10. Now, our base is starting to take shape now, but this is hardly a beginner base. So to get there, we want to upgrade our science level. First, we want to take our crafting level to the next tier using wooden boards, cut stone, and electric dudelets, all made of the same materials as before, just in higher amounts, or with my favorite technique of evicting some locals and using their belongings. The new alchemy engine not only looks a lot better, but can also completely replace the science machine, offering a higher tier of crafting. So we can finally do this. We can go near the fire pit to allow crafting at night, but we will want to leave a bit of space for the next upgrade. Now, we will need a lot of wood to make the boards. However, chests can be placed pretty much anywhere around the base, since all they really are is storage. The best way though is to put them right near our alchemy engine, since we can prototype right out of a chest without needing to carry the items halfway across the base. And it's really easy to forget, but it's essential to place the larger structures like the alchemy engine before the chest, so we can place these a lot closer. The only reason this is a thing is because larger structures have a much bigger space requirement than they visually take, and smaller items like chests will only take up as much space as they show, which also applies to the next thing we're about to talk about. Our crockpots are all said and done, looking amazing. However, with all the food we're gonna have very soon, we need somewhere to put it. Using a chest is a possible choice if we're eating the food as fast as we make it, but an icebox is really what we want. Iceboxes are made using gold, gears, and cut stone, increasing the shelf life of all our food inside by 50%. Just like our alchemy engine and chest solution, it's really important to place the crockpots before the icebox to allow them all to fit. But also, depending on the amount of crockpots we have, our icebox will need to be placed in slightly different spots to ensure all crockpots can be reached without the icebox closing, and so we can cook right out of it instead of having to carry all the items in our inventory. But now let's get into the good stuff. Food. Level 13. Now, I've already covered over 100 farms that can be made in this game, but this isn't a farming guide, so we might as well just focus on the best farms in the game, while I also tell you about the sponsor of this video. Now, earlier this year, I was building a new PC with some very expensive parts that were prone to drain my life saving, but allow me to make way better content for you, so it was worth it. Setting it up took a lot more than the 2 grass rafts it takes to either gather all the kelp near the shore that spawns in a group, or to get to and back from the lunar island to gather all the kelp in the beach. But the final build build was amazing until I realized I needed to buy Windows. A Windows key is not cheap, and I really didn't have the money, but then I stumbled upon G2A.com, which offers the exact same key for a fraction of the price. I even saved enough money to buy another boat to push all the kelp together when I replanted it next to the base, making it one of the most amazing food sources ever. So if you're ready to have more kelp than you know what to do with and all the boats to conquer the sea, spam that link in the description to take full advantage of D2A's Back to School campaign, which not only has dozens of keys for software, but also discounted keys on some of your favorite games. The Back to School campaign won't last forever, so check it out to get the game you've been waiting for all year, which is also how long kelp grows. Or if you don't need a game, since I saved so much Dualisite on my key, I'm thinking about grabbing a new game to try on stream since the prices are so low. So if you want to recommend any on that site that you'd like me to play, flirt with that link in the description or scan that QR code to comment one you like. Because kelp might be the best food in the game, but G2A.com gives us the funds to play them. So yeah, let's see if there's any other builds we can add to this base that will get it even close to the level extreme G2A brings. Level 14. Now we use several types of materials all the time in any playthrough, but the most important are grass and twigs. Grass and twig farms only take a shovel to dig up and relocate them to the base for stacks of them every season except winter. Normally having a stack of tufts and saplings is enough for a playthrough, however the more players the more we will need to harvest, and also make sure that we have plenty of rotten manures to fertilize the tufts. The most efficient way is simply heading down to the caves to gather light bulbs and letting them spoil for rot, which will stack up to 40 items and save space when compared to 20 for manure, which is a more popular way of getting fertilizer by feeding the bulbs to a werepig. But with this, we've now achieved a great beginner guide and the foundation to an extreme base. So to get to that extreme base, let's make this even better. Drying racks are not very commonly used due to their high initial cost of charcoal, twigs, and rope. But thankfully, we can already produce most of this, so investing in some drying racks will pay off some great dividends. Drying racks will not only refresh the spoiling time of meats or our amazing kelp back to 100% and increase their shelf life to a whopping 20 days, but also cause it to regenerate from 10 to 15 sanity per piece, all in a matter of 2, 1, or quarter of a day. The only downside to using drying racks is that it will take a lot longer to work during spring, but for all the Wigfred mains watching, here's how you can get lots of meat. Now, obviously the best way to get meat, and one of the most consistent, is by hunting spider dens. Spider dens will spawn in the forest and rocky biomes where destroying a tier 3 nest will allow us to relocate it using spider eggs and make infinite monster meat, silk, and spider glands. These items are all great for crafting equipment and structures throughout our playthrough, but best of all, they will help us reach that max level base later on. However, first we want to use the silk from this farm to make a bird trap and get ready for the next game changer of our base. Level 23. Eggs are some of the most versatile items in the game and are surprisingly simple to make. Using the silk and twigs we have gathered plenty of, we can prototype a bird trap that when set with a seed will attract the bird to get trapped. With this bird in our hands, we gather some reeds, bird seeds, and gold to set up a bird cage. Bird cages will hold our prisoner and allow us to feed them all the meat we don't want to eat and turn them into delicious eggs. Eggs are not only great to eat, refresh your food items, can be let to spoil to craft gunpowder, but best of all will unlock several crockpot recipes like Wilson's favorite food and pierogies, which are pretty much just the best crockpot recipe in the game, which by the way, we also have all the ingredients to make. But if this doesn't satisfy your hunger or you have more mouths to feed, then let me show you how to get unlimited food. Moleworms are simple creatures and are so generous that they allow us to exploit their spawners to get unlimited food. Now, a moleworm will spawn from a burrow which is linked to it and can create a new one whenever it is dug up and moved. But even if we take it far away, this mole will always be linked to that hole and will not make a new one no matter how far we take it. However, scientists have discovered that leaving a burrow intact but taking the mole to the cave, they will become unlinked, allowing us to pretty much duplicate burrows as much as we want. It might seem like some sort of dark magic, but it's really not, and the only limit to this is really how many times you want to do this, because this can really take care of food forever, letting us actually delve into real magic. Now you can probably set this up a lot earlier in the build, but better late than never. To delve into the dark arts, all we need is a top hat made from silk in our spider farm, some wooden boards from chopping down trees, and a couple rabbits that we can catch using traps in the savanna biome. A prestidigitator is like a science machine that will unlock several recipes that can help us live forever, put our enemies to sleep, or even freeze them. However, just like the science machine, this is but a stepping stone to get into the real good stuff. A shadow manipulator can be placed near our chest section to increase efficiency and is made using living logs and a purple gem that will unlock even more more magical items, from portable touchstones, teleportation devices, and even dark swords, which are some of the best weapons in the game. The only downside is the sanity drain, which can get pretty bad, and even though we have all the kelp in the world to regenerate it, we don't want to waste all our kelp here. So here's where sleeping comes in. Now, sleeping isn't my preferred method of recovering sanity due to its heavy time consumption and costing hunger to do so, but it is a base addition, so here are the different levels of sleeping we can choose from. Grass rolls will cost grass and rope to make and will provide about half a point of sanity and health per second at a cost of 1 point of hunger, making it the most basic there is. Fur rolls are direct upgrades made using a grass roll and 2 bunny pups, which will double the gains at the same cost of 1 point of hunger. Tents will take silk, sticks, and rope and drain the same hunger and same sanity gain, but will double the amount of health gained. Siesta lean-tos will take silk, boards, and rope to have the same stats, but will actually reduce the amount of hunger drain by 2/3, making it a lot more efficient, although it will drop our temperature over time, so using it during summer is the best use. And for the 2 Walter mains watching this video, the camper's tent will provide all the same benefits for all the tents, but can also be moved. Of course, besides the different cost of materials and stat variables, all these structures and items will have the different amount of uses and will also reduce our wetness and affect our temperature. Sleeping inside of structures will make us immune to outside damage though, so maybe they're worth considering, but since our base is getting more and more advanced, it's time to make it look so too. Level 32. There exist dozens of turfs we can use in our base, from grass to beach turf, bricks, or even beard hair. However, the best looking and easiest turfs to get are carpet, marble, and wooden flooring that are easily obtained from touchstones, set pieces, or even pig kings. The layout of turf is all up to you. However, the most common way to lay these out is having the dominant carpet turf on important structures like the alchemy engine and marble flooring as a secondary between the carpet due to its uneven edges, giving it a messy look. It's all preference though, and the important thing to note is that not all turfs are created equal and they will overlap on each other depending on priority. There is way too many turfs and I don't want to bore you to death with explaining them all, but the best way I can describe them is that the more you like them, the lower they are in the hierarchy. So yeah, go crazy. But right after I explain the most important part about base building, location. Now, I probably could have covered location earlier due to how important it is, but since we're now jumping into the advanced things, location is crucial. The right base spot is commonly picked near things we prioritize when we play, like bosses when rushing, a desert when mega basing, but one thing almost everyone prioritizes is a good cave entrance. An ideal cave entrance will be very close to the ruins for quick access to loot or near mushroom biomes that can provide health or easy sanity. To find a good cave entrance, it's great to go down as many holes as you can while exploring the world to locate any good ones, and also keep an eye out for exits that are near each other. Why are these important? Well, caves are very different from the upper world, and sometimes exits that are close can lead to entrances that are extremely far apart, allowing us to go down a cave in our base and come up on the other side of the world on another cave to save a lot of time and walking. But don't worry about these too much, because there's also other holes we can go down. Wormholes will cost 15 sanity for every use, but can take us across the map a lot easier than caves, since every wormhole only has one direct pair to it. It might be a bit confusing to remember what wormhole leads where after turning and turning the map 100 times. But using a clean sweeper made from petals and sticks, we can change the skin of our wormhole and its direct pair to identify them without even losing 30 sanity on them. Ideally, we want to base near a wormhole that will take us somewhere pretty far from our base to avoid long walks or near unrelocatable resources like cacti or set pieces. But if it leads us somewhere more isolated, it might not be that bad of a thing. Level 37. Hounds are something we all have to deal with, and unless you're Wigfrid maining them, it's a good idea to have some traps to deal with them. Basing near some beefalo is a good way to take some protection from them, but it's also only asking for trouble during spring when they will become hostile or since their herds slightly migrate over time. Some set pieces are also great for doing this, like reed traps and tall bird fortresses that will make easy work of even the toughest of hound waves. However, the downside of both of these are that reeds and tall birds nests are both highly flammable, and come around summer, fire hounds will be more than happy to take it all away from us. So instead, we can also set up some 2 traps using rope, logs, and teeth, or even better, some bramble traps using living logs and stingers from wormwood. The setups can be however you want, but this is probably my favorite. And even if you don't have a wormhole that leads to a big empty field like this, or your priorities aren't even close to a wormhole, it's a good idea to set up one either way, just a bit far from camp to avoid gregging it. And speaking about being far from camp, let's talk about boss-proofing our base. Bosses are a bit hard to persuade from staying away, and I'm pretty sure we've all had the experience of having deer clops in our base. So to avoid this, what we want to do is craft a sign far away from our base. Deer clops loves destroying structures, and when spawning, we'll always target the nearest one, being pig houses, alchemy engines, lightning rods, or even a simple sign. So to protect the previous one, we want to place this sign to lure our friends, and then using the acorns we've gathered from chopping trees all autumn, we can plant them a couple days before deer clop spawns and let them have their way with a row of them. Winter does bring a lot of snow, however, and makes building in the base very painful. But there is one item we will want to have before spring rolls around, and that's a lightning rod. A lightning rod is very straightforward, and all it does is attract lightning away from other structures in our base to keep this from happening. It's really cheap to make, but also very easy to forget, so make sure you craft it before spring starts to avoid gregging it some more. But when spring rolls around, it might be a good idea to try some different farms too. Farm plots are a great way to farm food year-round, but spring rain will allow us to take less care of them, and just by planting some random seeds will yield us crops and maybe a seed if we tend to them too. Several other mechanics can also be used to grow giant crops, but since this isn't a farming guide, it's just good to have them, and also for later on in this video. But an easier farm to make is a stone fruit farm, which when collected in the lunar island using a shovel can be fertilized to produce rocks, avocados, and even some stone fruit bushes. But since we're in spring, we should also take advantage to make a farm plant that only spawns in this season. During spring, mobs called lure plants will spawn, surrounded by several hostile eyes that will attack us. The fleshy bulbs in the middle is really what we want here, since this is the part that produces the leafy meat for us, but since it is surrounded by all these eyes, we need to either plant them in an area with a lot of man-made turf, or we can simply kill them to relocate them to a boat where they will not be able to spawn any eye plants, and then we can get free meat every season except winter. But since winter is long gone and the next season we have to deal with is summer, it's time to talk about heat. Level 47. The heat is probably the most annoying thing about summer, but we can easily avoid it by putting down an endothermic fire pit to keep our temperature down, or also cool down a thermostone. But okay, I lied. That's not really the most annoying thing about summer. It's actually wildfires, which will turn our entire base to ashes if not taken care of. But this is extreme base building, so of course we can take care of it. Now, the first way to take care of fires is by using an ice flingomatic. Ice flingomatics are made using ice, gears, and electric doodads that when placed down will have a radius where if any fires are detected inside, will put out fires for us. This is the most simple way to keep our base from catching on fire, but using these will be a bit expensive and take a lot of planning to use, since it will more than likely have to be at the center of our base to keep everything intact. However, there is some better ways. The Oasis Desert is the only biome on the surface that is completely resistant to wildfires. So limiting ourselves to only this biome is one way of getting away with a flingoless base. But like all of us know, a big sandstorm will roll around during summer, making it impossible to see unless we fish for a couple of days to get the blueprints for some desert goggles. This limits us a lot though, since usually deserts will be in a far corner of the map away from other things we might want to be near with. So instead, we can also make a separate base in the caves where we will actually be protected from both overheating and wildfires indefinitely. This might be a better option in the early game where we have a lot of exploring to do, but in the late game, things might get pretty boring down there. So instead, we can take a trip to the ocean. The ocean is very underrated and not many people like to go into it. However, if we travel a bit farther from the shore, we might stumble upon a giant fig tree. Giant fig trees will protect us from lightning, overheating, and wildfires all together, making them a great base location, without mentioning that they also have figs and spider dens that paired with some kelp or even our lure plant boat will be more than enough food for us to live off of. As a matter of fact, these things are so great, we might as well just take one back home. Pearl's Island can be found using a message in the bottle, which are found around the ocean, and when we get there, not only will she call us a whippersnatcher, but we can also trade a jar we found for the blueprint of a pigeon winch. Using this on our boat, we can then ram into a giant fig tree that will bust a gigantic nut. And after we pick it up and take it home, we will plant it near our base, and after 3 days, it will grow into a tree. Once it's a small tree, all we need to do is fertilize it using tree jam every 4 days, a total of 4 times, to be a fully grown tree, giving us all the benefits of a normal giant fig tree. This paired with our kelp farm and everything we already have makes doing this just line up. But if you don't want to stay in just one spot, then maybe a fully mobile base might sound better. Level 61. A completely mobile base is almost unheard of. However, using 4 boats and a couple giant magnets, we can make exactly this work. The magnets will keep our boats pulled together, so whenever one boat moves, all boats move. With this, not only can we make the base as big as we want, but by having 4 of them, we can actually plant some kelp in between that will be pushed along wherever we go, giving us permanent food and allowing us to use it to protect our boat from any dangerous trees. The great thing about being on a boat is that since our entire base is moving with us, things like freezing and overheating are pretty much non-existent since we will spend all the time next to our fire. The only downside to this boat base is that if we want to keep the kelp in the middle, we might not be able to use a sail to move around. But with our base now capable of handling pretty much every season at this point, it's time to start talking about advanced building. Since the first thing we started with was a campfire, that's the very first thing we want to upgrade. A scaled furnace is crafted using red gems, charcoal, and a scale obtained when dragonfly is killed. Scaled furnaces will not replace the light radius of a fire pit, but will actually allow us to cook, stay warm, and have a small round light forever. Even after winter, using it to keep our selected thermal zone hot will keep its durability from dropping every time they warm up and cool down repeatedly, since the heat will last forever. But next, we want to focus on making our base easier to use. And what better way to start than with our chest? For all the chest knobs, commonly keeping the most essential items near the crafting station and rarer items farther away is a lot more convenient than having all the items nearby. Since we only need to prototype items once in a while and common items like grass are used in dozens of recipes, they are one thing we really need to keep around. Personally, before I separate my items into different chests, I like keeping them in categories like minerals, natural items, mob drops, logs, fertilizers, and magic items to make things as easy to find but not have too many half-empty chests. Later, different items grow in quantity the more we explore, so making a single chest for individual items is really what we want to work towards. However, with hundreds of items in the game, using some mini signs to label them is the best way to make sure we don't lose all our items in a maze of chests. And also, not to forget that by duplicating dragonfly scales, we can also craft fireproof chests to not even worry about having them in a range of a flingo. But if we are in the oasis, then this next thing will help us travel the world a lot faster. Building some roads in our base is a good way to travel to important parts of the world at increased speeds and also are very cheap to make. They not only help us get to where we want a lot faster, but using them during the night will make sure we don't get lost at all. Level 69. Nice. But since we're already talking about light, it's time to address how dark our base really is. So instead, why don't we explore different ways to make this brighter? Starting with a star color staff. Star color staffs are made underground in an ancient pseudoscience station and can be used to spawn dwarf stars that will produce as much light as a fully fueled campfire, but will only last 3.5 days. With 20 uses, it will last around 70 days or an entire year. But since these things are not renewable, instead we can also craft a bug net to craft some fireflies around the world or inside of caves to light up parts of our base. These things look great and give a lot of atmosphere. However, these fireflies will not be lit forever, since anytime we walk on them, they will hide and leave us to die. But that's okay, because there's still so many other ways that we can light our base using boss drops or even living creatures. But before that, let's get the rest of our base leveled up. So we're looking pretty extreme now, with parts of our base already set at their best performance. But our food situation has yet to level up too. So for this, we can also add some better farms like honey farms, which produce a long-lasting food, banana farms, which will grow year-round and make some amazing recipes, or even some advanced grass and twig farms using grass geckos and gators. Truly some marvelous thinking. But food items don't even have to be eaten to fit in our base. Berry bushes, for example, are really some terrible farms for their cost, but they look great for decorating, so setting up some small nature preserves will make sure our base looks even better. So it's not all chests and roads. And speaking of roads, don't you just hate how they always end right at the edge of the ocean? Don't you wish you could just walk on forever without using a boat? Well, do I have a surprise for you. In the Moonquay Island, we will find several awesome things, from banana bushes, monkey tails, palm cone trees, and even best of all, the queen. The Moonquay Queen can be traded with to receive some blueprints for canyons that are great for the fans, but also docks, which will make some nice boat parking lots, but better yet, will work as a man-made turf to expand our base to the ocean and be completely protected from summer anywhere in the world. Which, why wouldn't you want to be under here? I mean, look at the ambience. But I know what you're thinking, this is a lot of ocean content, can't we just make a different type of base? Well, yes. Thankfully, by defeating the antlion, we are able to unlock a hat that allows us to remove any turf we want just by walking on it, and then placing it down where we want to too. This will come in handy greatly since we're almost at the peak of base building. Adding our favorite biomes to our base will make it look diverse and alive. My favorite is having a tropical section with palm trees and bananas, but if you don't want to go through all the work of moving everything from a biome, we can also just teleport right to them. Lazy deserters are dropped from Antlion and will take some expensive resources to set up. However, crafting them will allow us to teleport to any location we want as long as there is another player to activate it in the other waypoint. Or if we don't have friends, we can also use a telelocative focus and staff paired with 3 purple gems to teleport right where we want to without the help of anyone. Of course, playing characters like Vortox or Wanda can make these things pretty much useless, but since these things have a great sanity drain, they can also be used to tank our sanity for the fuel, or the opposite with a Bee Queen crown. But let's slow down for a bit, because at this rate, this will end up being 100 things to put in your base instead of 100 levels of base building. So let's focus on the details. Our base now has several sections, from decoration, cooking, sleeping, or even relaxing. So first, we want to separate them using walls. There's countless walls we can use, from stone to thulecite, so imagination is the limit of all of these. A common use for wooden walls is to hit them down until they have 0 HP, giving us this great look of split logs that can really add to the scenery. And also, don't be afraid to use different walls in between rows to make it look even better. And really, why stop there? Decorations like sculptures, ferns, trees, giant crops, fish scales, and so many other are really what make an extreme base as good as it is. Sure, we can add teleportation stands, elaborate kitchens, and so many farms, but what makes a great base is how much time and effort is put into making it, and making it just how you want, whether it be optimized for efficiency and having everything laying on the floor, or set up for looks and spending days laying down pieces of gold to showcase sections you are really proud of. Light sources can be as simple as throwing torches on the ground to as complicated as catching light bugs and wearing slurpers all the way to the surface for infinite light. There's dozens of structures we can build and skins that will make simple bases look even 100 times better than complicated ones any day of the week. So if you really want an extreme base, try any, all, or even none of these tips to get there, but make sure you make it as good as you want. Not because you saw it in the video, but because you like it. But yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep.